Good morning. I wanted to take a minute and talk a little bit about marijuana because I released a column that has run in several newspapers now on the issue of cannabis, and my thesis was that Idaho should rethink its marijuana laws. I don't think I've had as much reaction to a single column that I've written in the last 8 years as this one. I like to think that I've written a lot of really great things, but this one certainly has hit a chord with some people. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that issue and get some dialogue going about this topic. Number one, some people are suggesting that, well, we just want to do what other states are doing and we want to play a sort of follow the leader or some kind of a lemming march off a cliff, which isn't true. The reason why I mentioned it, and I actually told some of my readers this, I would be recommending this policy regardless of what other states are doing, simply because if no other state had legalized any form of cannabis or cannabis extract, the fact remains that there are variations of cannabis that are proven to be beneficial for health purposes. Take, for example, the cannabis oil, the CBD oil treatment that people like Josh Phillips, the young man from Salmon, is trying to use, which apparently has the ability. Now imagine that no other state around us had legalized CBD oil. Somebody has to be the first to say, you know what, this is the correct policy and we should deny people access to something that would benefit them from a health standpoint. But what I did say, however, is that the legal fact is that the states around us, all of the states around us, have legalized some variation of cannabis. In Washington and Oregon, medicinal and recreational marijuana are legal. California, which is not adjacent to us, but it certainly has a lot of impact on Idaho, just voted to legalize marijuana for recreational purposes in the Tuesday general election. Nevada, which is adjacent to us, just legalized recreational marijuana. Utah, which no one would argue is a liberal state, has allowed for CBD oil, the kind of treatment that Josh Phillips is seeking. And then you've got Wyoming, which also allows CBD oil to be used for various epileptic treatments, and Montana, which just expanded its medical marijuana law during last Tuesday's election. So every state around us is allowing it in some form or another. That doesn't mean that Idaho should just follow suit and do whatever the other states are doing, but we must realize that people who live in Idaho are now traveling out of Idaho to get access to a product they believe would benefit them. And in fact, I was in a meeting not long ago in Coeur d'Alene, and I made this statement. This was before I wrote my column, but it was just sort of food for thought and to gauge reaction. And I told this group of people that Idaho should revisit, as I said during my column, revisit Idaho's marijuana statutes. And there was a state senator in the room who said, oh, that's terrible, I can't believe you do that, and that's ridiculous. And this is a friend of mine, by the way, and so I respect this legislator's opinion. But she said something to the effect, how likely is it that people are actually going to travel to another state in order to get this sort of a treatment? And there was somebody in the room, a friend of mine, who raised the hand and said, I do, and I have done it. This is somebody who is well respected in the community, who, for whatever reason, has some medicinal needs that has been helped by virtue of being able to go to Washington State, to Spokane, and buy CBD oil or THC infused lotions that you can rub on your back. Doesn't get you high, but at least enables this person to deal with a pain, a problem, a medical condition that they have in their lives. Now the question is, are these the people that we want to lock up? Are these the people who should be arrested, jailed, who have to lose their jobs, are these the people we're looking to adjudicate? Now, keep in mind that this sort of thing has a huge effect on people and the economy. Take, for example, Todd Dvorak. Now, we don't know the circumstances surrounding Todd's arrest, but Todd is the communication director, was the communications director for Attorney General Lawrence Wallace, and I would imagine he was earning between $70,000 and $80,000 a year, working in a high-profile job where he was doing good work on behalf of the state and the taxpayers of Idaho. For whatever reasons, he was arrested in Lewiston for possession of marijuana. As a result of that arrest, he lost his job. Now he's on unemployment. In addition to that, Todd has pleaded not guilty to the marijuana possession charges against him, which means there's likely to be a jury trial. At that jury trial, there will be a judge, one or more prosecutors. There will be a bailiff. There will be however many 50 to 100 people who are asked to show up that day for a jury trial, of which a dozen people will serve on the jury, and they will not be earning an income that day. Now, you may hate marijuana, but I wonder if you'd hate even more the fact that there are so many productive people in society who are losing an income for a crime which really had no impact on society whatsoever. And we have to ask whether that's appropriate or not. Those are the questions I want to ask. I just posed this question to a state legislator over the weekend, and I said, what is the public policy we're trying to achieve by making marijuana illegal in Idaho? And is it achieving that objective? In other words, are we preventing youngsters from having access to it? Are we preventing intoxicated driving? Are we preventing opioid addiction? And there are some states, in fact, that have found that with legalized marijuana, opioid addiction has gone down because people have access to a safer treatment than can be offered by opioids. So they use marijuana, which generally is not addictive. So, I mean, there are all these different aspects of this that we need to consider. So do we really want to make Josh Phillips' parents criminals because they're trying to bring back a non-hallucinogenic variation of marijuana? And that's a question that I ask all the time. Somebody tell me whether Josh Phillips' parents should be criminals because they went to Utah to bring CBD oil back to Idaho to help their son escape the perils of intractable epilepsy. That's the question. It's a very good question. Next, should it be illegal for somebody to get a marijuana-infused, CBD oil-infused, or THC oil-infused lotion that you can rub on your back that doesn't get you high? And what about recreational marijuana? Frankly, recognize that there are people who are recreating on marijuana in Idaho today. And you don't know who they are because they've never been arrested and they've never committed a crime. These are the questions that need to be asked. Is this something that we're just going to ignore and hope that it doesn't manifest into society? It's a fallacy to somehow think that if we don't talk about it, it's not occurring. So these are the issues that I present to you. The fact is, if we don't do something soon, we're going to have Idaho courts and law enforcement inundated with cases from people who merely went across state lines to get something for their own personal use, something which arguably has less impact on society than the alcohol that's sold at the state liquor division. So what I want to do is I want to engage in a dialogue. I want to hear your questions and comments. I want to hear what you think the right answer is for Idaho and whether you think that the Idaho legislature should completely ignore this topic or start at least having a dialogue about what is appropriate marijuana policy for a state that is completely surrounded by other states where people are going for the kind of help they think is appropriate for them. Does Idaho believe in personal responsibility or doesn't it? Thank you for your time.